We're live.
All right. Welcome everybody to the weekly Backdrop Community Developer Meeting. We usually start these off with brief introductions. I'll go first. My name is Luke McCormick. I'm a web project manager in San Ramon, California. And nobody else is unmuted, so I'll pick on Robert.
And I will unmute. I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet in Altadena, California. And I'll pass it to Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm joining usually from Australia, Melbourne, but now from Greece for another couple of weeks. Generally involved in the ECQ and interested in anything with Backdrop Core, Contrib, and otherwise helping the community. Lots of things happening, but nothing really exciting worth mentioning yet. So I'll pass on to Irina.
Hi, I'm working from California. I'm here to mention simple sum authentication module and progress there, and to ask about what would be next steps for addressing URL alias language problem on Pantheon. And I need to pick up someone, I guess. Justin?
I was gone for a little bit, so I don't know who went. Justin Kaiser, I'm in Muncie, Indiana, and I'm just listening in to see what we're working on.
I'll go next. I'm Jen Lambton, joining from Oakland, California. Nate's not here today, so I'm going to be trying to fill his shoes on the core update front. But, see, is anyone else? Greg, did you go?
That's everybody. Let's go back. Take it, Jen.
All righty. Let's see. So this week, we didn't have any new community contributions in the module space, new releases out. We didn't have any applications. We didn't have anything really exciting going on. I think everyone is sort of recovering from the 1.24 release. Speaking of which, it is time to write and release a blog post highlighting all of the new features in 1.24. And then we should also decide if there are any bugs that are urgent enough that we need to come out with a bug fix. It's now been 2 weeks since the original release of the product, and that's usually our window for like, if there's anything that needs to be fixed, we would do it now. I've been using it on a few sites and haven't noticed anything critical, but I also haven't been watching the issue queue. So if anyone does know of anything, we could talk about that. If not, then we can go ahead and write the blog post and do all of our other publicity stuff without the follow-up bug fix release. I love it when that happens. That means that our preview process is working really well. So just if anyone has anything you want to bring up this week that you think might be a bug fix to the new features that went into 1.24.
There are a few bug fixes that are being worked on, or there's some activity in the queue, but they're not caused by the recent release, as far as I know. I don't know of anything, or at least anything major. They're just pre-existing things that need to be fixed.
Okay. That's great.
And sorry, but I haven't updated the roadmap page. It's on my to-do list. I'll do that.
Yeah, I have to update the other sites too. We've all got things on our to-do lists.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So for the blog post, I went through and updated all of the issues with the little section at the bottom that highlights the new feature. So there's like a 1-sentence or 2-sentence description of whatever the new feature is that went in. That should be enough for like a newsletter, but in the blog post itself, we might need to elaborate a little bit on the features, like put in some screenshots, stuff like that, make it a little more entertaining. I'd originally sent this to Tim, but I think he's really busy right now. So I don't know if maybe Luke, if you're interested, you're really good at PR stuff. That might be right up your alley. But essentially there will be a list of like 12 issues or something, and each one of them have a section on it with something that could be suitable for a blog post. And you could just look at those and be like, these 3 are not exciting to me, I'm going to do these 9, that's fine. Or, these 3 are the only 3 that are exciting to me, I'm going to ignore these 9. Just something that
Really?
would make a compelling post.
Didn't we have a session in one of the previous weekly meetings where we highlighted? Oh, I think that we did. And
I
Tim
think
was
I
showing it.
think in
That
in
could help.
last community meeting, so yeah, like 2 weeks
Weeks
ago
ago.
from today,
went through them.
Tim did a show and tell during the community time for all of the new features. So that could be really useful too.
All right, quick, give me a deadline.
How
Yesterday.
about next Thursday?
Okay.
Yay.
Yeah,
That'd be
thanks.
great. And you can either write that blog post like directly on backdropcms.org and keep it unpublished, or you could put it in a Google Doc or like whatever works for you. We'll figure out how to make it do what it does.
Okay.
Thank you. And then I checked the forum post for this week and nobody had added anything new or urgent. So that's also good that nothing's on fire, I guess. But I know Irina wanted to talk about her various issues, and I know Greg always has a million things. But before we get into either of those, does anyone else have anything they specifically want to talk about this week? Okay. Irina's not at her computer right now.
Yes.
So
I'm going through the queue because I'm always working in multiple issues. There's so many interesting things. Just bear with me. So there's one issue that came up, which is a task, and that's 5944. And this is a problem with it's actually a task to add a changed field for the views for users. And we have run into an issue where there's a misleading or confusing comment in the code, but we figured it out with the help of GPiano. It was a change that was coming from Drupal 5, basically, and it explains why we're doing the things the way that we're doing them. So I don't think if there's anything. We have a label that says need help wanted. So I'm going to filter by that. And I think that we also have a label for blocked, status blocked or something. I can't find it now. So
yeah.
Okay, so I need again to solicit help for a specific issue, which is 5927, and that's making Backdrop Core compatible with PHP 8.2. And as I said in previous meetings, I've done most of the legwork. It's just that I need some, and I think I've created a bullet in the the last message comment in that issue, which is 5927. I created a bullet point of basically the remaining failures or things that need to be fixed, but I need some guidance or someone to take over the pull request.
Okay.
And the good news is that the last comment there was that until recently, Lando, for those that are using Lando on their local, didn't support PHP 8.2 natively, but it does now, so it makes things a bit easier to test. So that's one. And Irina is back. So maybe we'll.
My apologies, I had an urgent issue.
No worries. We just tried to find any other issues that needed to be discussed, but the floor is yours, Irina. So you want to discuss that issue. So the issue that we need to discuss, the one that Irina is about to mention, is issue. I'll just find it.
So this is the issue number. It has been discussed several times. I can share screen and show what it is about.
I think it's 5496.
I put link in chat just in
Yep.
case.
Yes, thanks.
Because I do most of my work on Pantheon, I was seeing this on every site that I was testing. And after discussion here helped me look at another installation. And on my local installation, I don't have this problem. So I think that it points to the fact that process of backup and migrate, the way backup and I have this problem in various scenarios, whether I wipe database and import it using Pantheon tool, or if I do it using backup and migrate, it gives exactly the same result. I was very flattered that that Alejandro quoted me my own article and said, "Hey, Irina, this is how you need to do it. This is like, do it this way." I said, "Oh, this is, I feel flattered and it's fame coming finally." But it seems like we have the same problem regardless of whether I wipe out database or I use backup and migrate. And considering the fact that this is one of the key, the ability to import database via UI is also foundation for D2B module. So this is why I feel that it is worth trying to understand why, like what is different in Pantheon process versus standard process.
Yeah, if we have determined absolutely, like with absolute certainty that this happens only with Pantheon, and nothing else, I'm wondering if this is related to the other issue that we had with the slow config read write things in Pantheon. But in general, the last comments that I made an effort to see, because I see the language versus lang code thing being an issue in a lot of pull requests where we do a code review, either the automated tests pick that up and fail, or we have to mention that to people. I was trying to find if there was a way to create a symlink table with the same name without actually duplicating content in the database, so that we could transparently add a backwards compatible layer, if you like. But I'm not sure if it's possible. So I've outlined the findings of my research, but we need someone with better knowledge of how SQL queries or databases work in general. But yeah, it was an effort to see if that's possible.
Yeah, this one, Irina, is a little hard to focus on because we need to sort of know what's going on inside Pantheon. Like, why is it leaving stuff there that it shouldn't be leaving there, or isn't it changing things that should be changed in both the backup and migrate process, which is not aware of Pantheon, and in the Pantheon UI process, which is aware of Pantheon. So if Pantheon's doing anything special, if you uploaded the database through Pantheon, it should fix any issues with whatever the special thing is that Pantheon's doing, because it knows about it. Backup and migrate wouldn't know about like a database cache or anything like that. So it would overwrite what's actually in the database, but might not be overwriting what you're reading. But it still seems like during an upgrade, it would be good to like bypass all caching, because what you're about to do is really tough. I don't know if there's a way that we can do that, just to tell all systems to never cache anything during that process. But yeah, it's a little tricky. I think we're going to need someone else to try it who can log into Pantheon at the various different steps and like inspect the database. Like, what does the database look like before we do the import? What does the database look like after we would import? And specifically checking the system table for the one value that Backdrop is checking that seems to be failing, to see if the issue is what we think it is, which is that the database isn't getting overwritten properly, or if the database is fine and there's something else that's making Backdrop think that the database has not been overwritten properly. So that would mean somebody who has like Drush alias is set up for Pantheon and could run like Drush SQL CLI. That would give you the command line interface for your MySQL database on Pantheon. You can inspect it that way.
I can run
Yeah.
it. I just don't know what to look for, but I can run all these tests.
Okay.
The great thing about Pantheon that it gives me right out of the box. I don't even need to think how to access MySQL. I don't need to know. It gives me a command and then I'm in the SQL. And then I can say, if I put this additional command, which I'm getting from Backdrop now, and I run this command and then I run core update PHP again, then it works just fine. So I don't know, maybe it is possible to say, can you also run this additional command? Because I don't know
Well,
what
we
happens.
are already running that command. There's just a if statement around it that says, if this scenario, run this command. And we need to figure out why on Pantheon that scenario is failing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and
One thing that I was thinking was PHP version, but I did a quick search in the issue, and I see that Irina, if you can confirm that you mentioned at some point that you use PHP 7.2. Initially, I was suspecting maybe this was a PHP 8 issue that was somehow failing, but you mentioned that it's a PHP 7.2, which So if you can double check that and see if it's specific to any PHP version, at least we can rule out that fact.
And what's the condition?
Yeah, we found it last week when we were talking about this, but I was just looking to see. I don't see it. Anyone mentioned it in the issue.
Yeah, because I'm reading the issue, and in the issue it just has general description, but not
I think it was like a pre.
So the line that is being pointed out by the error is in user.install module line, and it's user update 1001.
Do you have a link?
I'll try to find it in the API side, and I'll provide a link. Just give me.
Okay, that's fine.
5
That's fine. I
seconds.
can.
link to the
I was
issue. or
also
link
trying to
the-
find it in APIs. Okay, Greg is faster.
Yeah, and I found the link to you can inspect the code of this specific update, right? There's no conditional around it.
Oh no, this is not.
This is
the
another
problem.
error then, different. Error.
Yeah, no, this is
Sorry.
there's like before the core update runs, there's like a update prepare function, and the update prepare function will make this one particular change before all the other updates run.
So what's the condition? You said in one condition something runs, and in the other condition the
Yeah,
other.
that's what we're looking for.
Is it?
Thank
So when I look in the API side, it's update prepare language and update prepare bootstrap. Which one of the two?
I think it's Bootstrap.
Okay, bootstrap. Let's see. So
Yeah. Okay. If hold on, update requirements. Settings exist, is initialized.
Someone's
It's my
fan
dog.
sounds like it's snoring.
It's very
So
loud.
funny.
That's lovely.
It's just
I figured it was.
Oh, it was a dog.
she's zonked
Thank
out.
you.
She snores like louder than anyone I know. Okay, here we go. System schema. If system schema is greater than 1,000 or less than 6,000. No upgrading from Drupal 5, people. It's going to cause a lot of problems. So that's the check that determines whether that database query needs to be run. And what system schema is in MySQL, there's a column called schema version.
So anything that is Drupal 7 basically and not Drupal 5, that's it, yes.
So I guess you just look for system module. So select schema version from system where name equals system. So if you can get into MySQL on Pantheon and run that query, you should be able to run it before you do your import and after you do your import. And before you do your import, it should say 1.24 or whatever the current version of Backdrop is that you're running. And after you import your Drupal 7 database, it should say 7,000 and something. So yeah, I just want to make sure that that number
This is the
adequately
table,
changes.
right? So table is table.
System is the name of the table.
Schema version, right? So I need to run the last query, right? Okay.
I'm going to drop this into
the-
the issue.
Thank you. I added a link to what you described, and let me see if I can.
Jen's frozen, so we might need to assume. Jen, are you still there?
Maybe not.
No. Oh, you froze there for a moment, Jen. Sorry.
Yeah, it was weird. I tried to switch away from Zoom and switch back, and then I got the like beach ball, and I was like, oh no, and then everything just came back totally fine. I was like, oh, everything's fine. Did I miss anything?
No. I think
I said I was going to update the issue, but then Irene.
Oh, it's happening again. Your audio broke up now. Nope. Your
It's
audio
Drupal
broke up.
7. It'll
And you're back again.
really.
Yes.
What's going on?
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video and see. Okay, if you can
All right.
hear me.
Yeah, we can. see you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, Irina, check that value in the MySQL database both before and after you import your Drupal 7 database and make sure it changes. And if you can note that in the issue, that'll
Okay,
help.
I will do the testing and report. Right now, I will need to reset. My testing site is not running, so it will take me some time to reset. Well, thank you very much. That will definitely get me going for a little bit, and then I will report an issue. Maybe it will solve the problem, because I hope to be able, my hope was that maybe we can do a demo at Florida camp. Team is going, I'm not going, but if we can't, we can't. That's fine. And I wanted to report that Simple SAML authentication, we're moving forward. It should be ready sometime soon. And wanted to thank Laren for looking into it and guiding me where we need to do. And I'm adding documentation. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Oh, Justin, that is cool. Maybe you can do the demo. If you manage to fix it, that would be so super awesome. So thank you very much. I'm going to dive into this, and I have another meeting at 2, so I'll have to log off 1:45.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
Thank
gonna
you
add,
very much, guys.
yeah,
Thank
but
you.
I'm gonna add another note on the issue just with the command so that we have a record of what we need to.
Okay, yeah,
doing that.
that's great. Thanks. Is there anything else anyone wants to discuss today? No.
Bear with me. I need to just finish this and then look into the. If you want to bail early, I don't mind either. But yeah, I'm sure that there's issues. Just let me find them.
Let's see. There are a few interesting issues for 125 we could just talk about just to see if we can get everyone excited. There's two ones that I think we've talked about before, but haven't made the core next release list before. One of them is limiting allowed text formats per field. And this is something that can be really useful if you have a field that like should never have HTML in it. You don't want someone to write HTML into the field because it might display as plain text or something like that. And you shouldn't be able to give people a format on the way in that doesn't match what it does on the way out. So just the ability to specify those, which is a great feature. I have been form altering these on my Drupal sites for as long as I can remember because this setting doesn't exist. I would love to see it in Backdrop. There are some permissions implications though, because the way formats work is they sort of fall back to who has permission to see what. So not everybody will see all formats. And so you have to just be a little careful about how you're removing those. And if you had like content that had used the format and then you remove it, like that could present a problem too. So I think it's a great feature. I would love to see us work on it, but it might be a little bit tricky. For those who are interested in that, we have a pull request. It's currently marked needs work, but the issue is number 2615. Another one that excites me is an accessibility issue that will automatically enable title or enable alt tags on images by default. And it would also, this issue also says it will include an option to make that alt tag required. I think that sounds really good. As someone who's been doing a bunch of accessibility work on all of my current sites, having a required alt field seems to have made a really big difference in terms of making sure people make accessible descriptions of their images. And I would love to see that as a core feature. That issue, if anyone wants to work on it, is number 3006. Oh, 3007 might be the
I think
pull
I was
request.
messing with that last week.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for bringing it back to our attention.
Oh, it goes in tandem for the. It's funny that they have what you call it similar issue numbers. So it's 3006 and 4007, which is also to add alt and title fields for image file types. So work hand in hand. And also another feature that didn't make it to the previous minor release was the field group functionality in core. This is really.
Yeah, and that's we have a plan for that, but it's going to be a really thinned out version of field group for core, and then we're going to leave all of the fancy features in field group and contrib. And so that Nate and I have been brainstorming a little bit about that, but I would love to get a first pull request up for Herb to review, since he's the maintainer of the contrib project too. Getting some feedback on that from him would be really good. So yeah. In some ways it's easier because it's less that we're adding, but in some ways it's harder because it's now new stuff instead of just porting field group, which already worked for contrib. So we'll see. Yeah, and then the field group issue is a oldie, number 647. I'm going to take a little peek in the bug fix issue.
Oh, I just found. I remember that I split off the comment, the idea that I had searching for column aliases the possibility of that in the SQL database. I've split it off into a separate issue, and I forgot that I've done that. So the issue number is 5951, and I have it as a question currently. So these are the results of my research there, and I need someone with better knowledge of things to see if that is something that we could possibly do. So
59, 51.
5951, yes, 5951. So basically, I went off by the blog article that Irina has drafted, and the solution is, in her case, the manual solution is to run basically a database query that renames or changes the column name.
Yeah.
And my thought was, what if we could check for both of these, and then
Yeah,
or
I feel like
separately.
we shouldn't be supporting like weird database structures, because then like it has sort of a cascading result of like people in Contrib writing stuff that'll search the wrong location, and then other people like, you know, searching stuff that isn't the same stuff that other people wrote to. So what I think, Greg, I have a similar issue to this that is about supporting the old properties. And if we could find a way to just have that not exist in the database in multiple places, but to have it exist in like the loaded objects that are retrieved from the database in multiple places, I think we might be able to solve the same problems. Because nobody really should be querying those fields directly in theory. They should be using APIs and stuff for that. And so if we could make it so that they could access it using the API.
No, I
think
understand
would
that
be cleaner.
rationale, but my idea was that if we did those transparently, but through errors, like deprecation errors in the log, we would allow Contrib to fix that, to say, hey, or even warnings, right? Hey, you're searching for the wrong, column or field in the database,
Yeah.
right? We wouldn't blow up the site in their faces though, which is what's happening with Irina at the moment.
Yeah, but Irina's use case is not a use case I think we need to be solving for in like all of core. I think we need to fix that specific problem. But I do think that the problem that I'm running to with language and lang code is like I'll use a Drupal module and I'll plunk it in and it says language everywhere, and changing it to lang code everywhere is a huge pain in the butt. Yes, you should do it, but it's the kind of thing that like if my site could not be broken while I did it, that would be great. And I think that the way that those properties are referenced is almost always as properties of those objects and never as a direct database query. And I think we could definitely add some protection there. I do see your point though, that it would be nice if we could like make this hurt the developers, but not the people using the software. I am in favor of that in general. I'm just not sure the database structure is that problem that needs to be solved. If you can run into another example that's not Irina's, where this happens from like installing a Contrib module or something like that, then maybe I'd be more likely to reconsider. I think it might not be a problem, not a real problem we're solving for, especially if like if this was something we could see happening frequently in like future versions of Backdrop, like we want to change database structure a lot and we need a cleaner way to do that, this might then become a lot more valuable. But if it's something where it's like, no, we've got an upgrade path that solves this problem, like if we don't, I don't know. It seems like there are two ways this could go, and I sort of guess that we already have a solution, and we should.
It reminds me similar sort of like conundrums, like the machine names for permissions have spaces instead of underscores, and it's like we would need a way to alias them if we needed to fix that error. We just keep ignoring it, or treating it the way that we inherited it. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some cleanup to be done. And then another issue that I would like to bring up finally, which is an idea, and there might be a design element to it as well, is 5949. So there's a few issues that I was troubleshooting that were related to needing to enable the language module and or enable languages. And from a UX perspective, what I've done is on a vanilla installation of Backdrop, if you're not a Drupal person and Backdrop person to know that you need these modules enabled, there's an item in the menu that says configuration and then regional and language, and you go there and there's no option for you to add languages. You have to know that there exists a module that you need to enable. So I was thinking how we could either add help text so that we can point people and say, hey, you need to enable that before you can enable languages. But then I said, hey, instead of having them go to another place, enable modules, and then come back here to enable it, maybe we could just inject the enable checkboxes here and say, hey, not specifically modules, but I want this feature to be able to add languages and translation and that, and then poof, there you go. It's similar to how we've injected permission matrices in various places to make things easier for people. So just a general idea.
I like it. I could see that being like the kind of thing you don't want to do. You don't want to add a checkbox to like an existing form, and it is likely to appear on other. But if we had some kind of like a button that opened a modal that could give them like, this is the module name, this is the description, like a little more information, maybe not the whole modules page, but just the module you're enabling, and then have like a yes, I want to enable it checkbox there, so that could happen in a different place. And then if there were any errors, it could happen in that place, so sort of a separate thing. Then I think that would be, in general, a really good idea. I'd love to see easier.
Another problem is that the admin config regional thing is not an actual form. It's basically an index of configuration pages. It's one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you put a form there, right? It's not a form currently. It's just a listing of. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But that's the entry.
That I think is another problem, though.
Yes, it is. Yes, but that's the entry point of someone trying to configure. Like this is if you see this from the angle of a person that has never used Drupal or Backdrop extensively, they go to configuration, they notice this, and they say, "Oh, languages. This is where I go." Nope. Yeah. So maybe my flaw there is that I am suggesting a specific solution to the problem. Maybe I should describe the problem and then we can decide on a solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of like the like quick enable, or what do you call it, the mini module enable, or whatever that is, I think is a good one. We don't know what it looks like yet, but I think that
I'm gonna add the design label to it because it does involve some design, the way that things are currently. So yeah. All right.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not sure if anyone else wants to bring up any other issue that they've been working on or they're excited about.
I just really quickly wanted to mention that this is a follow-up to our new roles descriptions. We had we wanted to make it so that anytime you change the administrative role setting, it would add some text to the end of that role description and say, this role receives all new permissions, just so that people know that that's the magic one. And I was looking at Greg found an issue where if you add the admin description to the overview form and then you save the overview form, it overwrites the description. And I was like, wait a minute, why are we saving something on this page? We're not editing on this page. It seemed really bizarre. So I've got a fix for that. And I'm going to try and include it in the edition of the feature that adds the text, and see if core developers will accept it that way, or if they want two separate issues, one that fixes the roles overview form and one that adds the text. But yeah, I just wanted to say that thank you, Greg. That was a very strange problem and it could have come up in any number of ways, because it was just saying like save the whole role. And if any module had either altered that form like I did and not known that the form structure was going to get saved again, that could be a problem. But also, if there are modules that like are supposed to add stuff into the user role, and I don't know if the role is extendable in this way, if there are any modules that do this, and then every time that this form gets saved, it would overwrite those things that module had added and essentially remove them, which could also be really problematic. So anyway, what it's supposed to do is save the weight on that form. So I just made it save only the weight, so that we should be safe in both those scenarios going forward. Anyway, that issue is number
I had it there before.
5940.
40. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and I have a final issue to mention that I need some feedback, not necessarily urgent, but yeah, because I started working on this as a prompt from Steve earlier. So issue number 5381. It's an issue that I started working on back in 2021, December, so a little bit over a year ago. And I had a pull request that was sort of like half done. So basically what I need feedback is on the last comment that I've added. So in system module, we have an array that specifies all the types of fields that we have in the form API, and how I implemented that feature here, which I can't recall if it's something that a contrib module does or whatever. It's I add another property, which is hashtag trim. And by default, this is set to true for all text input elements, right? So people can still override it if trimming is not desired, or they want to trim more than just white space. But then I took a look at the modules that are not in the section in that array that they're qualified as input elements, and the things like item, for example, doesn't have an input equals true, sort of like an input true thing, but hidden value and
Yeah,
token.
I don't think we should trim anything off of an input that you can't actually put anything into. So like something like hidden or value, like those are just, they belong to the form. There isn't anyone could enter an accidental space into those. And so I don't think we should be trying to trim them from there.
It could happen, but only programmatically. It wouldn't happen by like user error.
Yeah. And so
So
I think
I'm
this should be like we're helping the user, but not like we're trying to correct a developer sort of a feature.
Okay.
I think the password confirm form already does this. I'm not sure if that's where you got your inspiration.
No, yeah, we had a discussion with Nate about
Okay.
a year ago with regards to passwords, and I had some reservations with trimming spaces because it might be a desired character that people intentionally add so that it's not hacked. Like, who's going to use spaces at the end? I am. But then Nate suggested that, yeah, we should do it. And then when I looked at the code, I go, yeah, we're already doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah. That was it. That's my only thought. I think like help isn't an input, is it? It's a output item.
Yeah,
I
it's not
think
an
it's the
input.
same. Yeah. Markup. Yeah, I think these we should not.
Yeah, it would just reduce. It would have the same effect, side effect as this. It would reduce the usage of trim function within core unnecessarily, because by default it would be trimmed, so developers wouldn't have to think about it. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I do like the idea of making things easier on developers. I just think like for a while we're just going to be doing it twice everywhere instead of once, because if we put it in core, it'll take a while for contrib to remove it. So that might actually do more harm than good in the short term. So maybe that might be something that we could like schedule for like Backdrop 2 or something like that, and be like, here's a list of important changes you should know for your modules. And we can like, everyone's going to be looking at that. It wouldn't be something that we like sneak into a minor version.
in this specific scenario, it wouldn't harm anything, because basically contrib, if they are using trim, they would be doubling up on something that is already done.
But if your goal is like to stop calling this function so many times, we're just adding an extra call every time we call it. So now we're calling it twice. So
Fair enough.
like I
Yeah.
understand like it would make it easier, but like at the same time we're now calling trim, and it doesn't do any harm to call it twice, but like we are calling it twice.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could
Cool.
I just rate, and this may be a really dumb idea, but the value use, or as you described it, it takes the value of either true or false. But if it took a string, that could be the name of a trim function, so that someone could easily do a custom trimming. And an example might be if what was being entered was a path, then you want to make sure that you've trimmed off any leading or trailing slashes.
Right.
Yeah.
Good idea. And we have a use case of that in Path, which actually trims the forward slashes from the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
So maybe it can accept a string so that they can specify what they want to remove from. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Or just
Oh.
the function name.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
let-
was thinking, the function. name.
Yeah. And so by default, the function name could be like trim, right?
Mhm.
But then
Yeah.
if you needed like a path URL alias cleanup trim or something, you could use that
Yeah,
instead.
path trim or whatever.
So
Yeah.
it would be similar to how validate, sort of like the validate calls a
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you guys do me the favor and add a comment?
Yeah.
You Jen on the feedback on the question asked with for the additional things and
Yep.
and you, Robert, add a comment. I'll make it easier for you as well if you didn't note the.
I've got the issue up, so.
Okay, cool. If you can add that as a comment, because I might not remember to go back to it directly now, but yeah, cool. Thanks. Really good idea.
Great. We are at time. Does anyone have any last thoughts for the day? No? All right.
All right.
Wow.
Call it a-
Yeah. Thank you guys
Thanks,
for joining
everyone.
the developer meeting, and we'll see you next week, if not before.
Right.